Handicap Hustle. I'm Gabby DiPaula along with Richard Frazier here on this beautiful Thursday. A lot of sports going on. Probably not the main stuff that we talked about recently, like NFL, but we do have MLB going on. We have Lacrosse Final Four coming up. We also have baseball that's going on, like I just said, and then NHL playoffs and then NBA playoffs. So there's a lot going on right now. Kind of crazy for, I guess, postseason right now for the NBA and NHL. What are your thoughts there, Richard?
Well, yeah, the most exciting things going on right now, obviously, I think, are the NBA Final Four and the NHL Final Four.
Mhm.
So the winner of these two matchups in both leagues will play for the finals, and we'll get a champion out of that.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of I guess an exciting time in May with, like I just kind of said, like with MLB, NHL, NBA. Who do you well let's start with the NBA right now. NBA playoffs, I think it's game three for a couple teams today. There was a couple of controversial calls that we've seen over the past week. But what are your thoughts on the NBA? I know the Celtics, they were pretty close to winning last year too, and they're on everyone's tails this year. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are that the Celtics are lucky that they won that first game. How Indiana blew that game with turnovers in the last minute of the game is beyond me. I actually had turned it off in the last minute because I thought Indiana had it wrapped up, only to click it back on and find the game in overtime. But
Mhm.
even with that being said, that would have brought Indiana a little closer to Boston. But even if Boston would have lost that game, I think Boston easily takes this series.
You do, and I guess it's because of Jason Tatum. He's been pretty playing pretty well. Who else do you see as probably one of the stars on the team?
Well, I just think overall they're the most rounded team
Hmm.
left in the NBA. They are a number one seed coming out of the East. If you look at the West, you got the Mavericks and the T Wolves. Now, the T Wolves' main objective this year was to build a team that was capable of beating the Nuggets, and
Hmm.
they did that.
Yeah,
They were able to knock off the
finally.
Nuggets.
Yeah.
But I have to say, since the T Wolves lost game one last night to Dallas, I have to give Dallas the upper hand in this series now.
Yeah, I'm kind of taking Dallas too. Dallas and Celtics, that'd be a fun championship game to watch. I am kind of rooting for the Celtics. I am not a Boston fan, obviously, with like the Patriots in that area and everything. I'm an AFC. My team is a Ravens, so they're kind of an AFC rival. So I'm not a big Boston fan, but I do like the Celtics because I do like their team. I feel like they're kind of consistent on that matter. I did like what they brought to the table last year as well. I thought they were going to take the championships last year. They ended up falling. But we see the Celtics and the Mavericks in the championship series or in the finals actually. I think I will be taking the Celtics, but I mean, we still have a couple games to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that kind of puts us on opposite sides of the fence. Me, growing up in Pittsburgh and being a diehard Steeler, Pirate, Penguin fan. Yeah, so we're gonna have our differences there, but no. Truth being told, the Ravens are going to be strong, and they have the best quarterback, I believe, in the league right now.
You
But
do believe they have the best quarterback in the league. It's a
well,
big
well,
take
big
coming from a Pittsburgh fan.
well, being that we traded our quarterbacks away, we brought in two fresh guys, and we don't even know who's going to start yet. Um, Russell Simmons, Justin Fields. I don't know, but I guess we'll save football for a later show.
Yeah, that's for a later time. I know OTAs are going on right now. Did see some videos and your new quarterback Russell Wilson had a couple good throws and looked, I guess, decent enough for OTAs. You can't really judge on that. But back to basketball, yeah, Mavericks and Timberwolves. I think you said you lean or are more on the Timberwolves.
Now that they've won game one in Minnesota, yeah, I do favor Dallas in that series.
Okay.
Now, I mean, you gotta love Luka Doncic. He
Hmm.
reminds me a lot of Jokic in Denver.
Yeah.
It seems like these big European white guys are the dominant forces in basketball now. And you match him up with Kyrie Irving, who's a flat out baller. I think they make a dynamic duo. I really do.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I actually have similar thoughts on that with Luca, also because I mean Luca has actually been pretty dominant in the postseason. Not that he wasn't before, but he doesn't I guess shy away from, big moments, which I do appreciate. And, I know the Mavericks obviously love that. He loves it. He started getting a little testy a little bit in the last playoff series, which I don't know, you gotta love. You gotta love the competitiveness. But you said the Mavericks?
Yeah, at this point, since they won game one, they have the edge odds wise. And I think that since they stole home court advantage, they're going to use that to their advantage. And I do think they'll beat the T Wolves in this series.
Okay, okay. I think I'm probably gonna take the Mavs on that. Love Mark Cuban, big fan of him, so I'm just gonna go with the favoritism on that.
Wait,
But
you love a Pittsburgher? You know he's a Pittsburgher, don't you?
yeah, 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 yeah. But I do like what he represents. But moving on, so I'm gonna take a Celtics and Mavericks championship final series. And you're taking the Timberwolves and the Celtics.
I'm taking the Mavs and the Celtics. No,
Okay,
the
Mavs,
Mavs,
Celtics as well.
yeah.
And then you're gonna take Mavs to win it all.
Um, I'll probably root that way, but if you look at the odds and how the odds makers have laid this out, that I mean, you literally have to lay $1.80 to win a dollar on the Celtics at this stage with the Final Four.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're basically saying that Boston is that much better than the other three teams in the
Hmm.
Final Four. So, yeah, as much as I would like to see Dallas win it, I'm a numbers guy, a science guy. The numbers and the science say that the Celtics are going to win this thing.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the Celtics as well, but would love to see that matchup later on. But moving on, we have the NHL playoffs going on as well. Like there's a ton of sports going on, but I think like the main sports that we all think about are football and baseball, and football is kind of going on with OTAs. But moving on to the NHL conference finals, we had the Panthers and the Rangers, where Panthers lead right now 1-0. Then the Oilers and the Stars. I guess it's like a couple of different teams. I feel like we usually don't see these same teams. The Panthers have been in it for the past couple of years, but Oilers and Stars, the Stars have kind of been, I guess, knocking at the door, but really haven't made it through. So, what are your thoughts? Let's start with Panthers and Rangers. Panthers won 3-0 yesterday. So, what are your thoughts on that series?
Well, it's interesting that the Panthers came into the playoffs last season as the second wild card, last team in the playoffs, took my Pittsburgh Penguins spot. But nevertheless, they got in and they were expected to do better during the regular season. But they did work their way through, battled back from a 3-1 deficit against the Bruins, who set a league mark for points last season, and made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals against the eventual champs, the Vegas Golden Knights. So the Panthers are where they're supposed to be this year. Even though the Rangers won the President's Cup this year, I think that the Panthers have more firepower. Bobrovsky in goal is
Mhm.
better than anybody in the league when he's on his game, and I have to give the edge to the Panthers in that series.
The Panthers, yeah. I mean, I think it's just about time for them to kind of win it all. Let's go to the Oilers and the Stars. They play game one actually today. So who are you taking for that matchup?
Well, this is an interesting matchup because you have the number one star of the league, Connor McDavid, playing for Edmonton Oilers, of course, and they're just loaded offensively. They're power play merchants. But on the defensive side of things and goaltending, a little shaky. Now, the Dallas Stars, being the number one seed in the West, probably had the toughest matchup of anybody having to play the defending champ Vegas Golden Knights, came in as the number 8 seed. And that series, Vegas came in and won the first two in Dallas, which really put the pressure on the Stars. The Stars responded by coming back and winning two here in Vegas, and it went to a game 7, and the Stars came out on top. I think that is going to be Dallas's hardest series, at least till they get to the finals. So, yeah, as nice as it would be for Connor McDavid to win this series, I think it's going to be very difficult to beat the Dallas Stars. Pete DeBoer used to coach Vegas. He knows how they operate, and he has a smothering defense, and they have just enough offense to win. Ottinger's been playing great too.
Yeah, like kind of like you said, like the Stars, they are coming off 2 tough series, so they're in it for the long haul. And I go back and forth on the theory of when teams get hot, but they're kind of hot right now. They just had 2 tough series where they won, and now they're in, another game in the playoffs against the Oilers. So they're kind of starting to look like they could be the reigning champs this year.
They're certainly battle tested.
They certainly are. Well, let's see who do you want to see in that championship in those finals?
Well, I think that when it comes down to it, the winner of tonight's game is obviously going to have a huge impact on which way the odds of this series swings. But before game 1, looking at this, I'm going to have to say the Stars.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm going to take the Stars over the Oilers in this series, and the Panthers Rangers, I think, is a little more of a mismatch, especially since Panthers already got one in the bag. So I'm going to take the Panthers in that series.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the Panthers. I think it's time for them to kind of be crowned in that series. But the Oilers, I do have a feeling they're going to win it all. They're just really deep. They have a ton of depth. They are hot right now, which is a theory I just said I kind of go back and forth on. But I do think it's time the Oilers to kind of be the reigning champs.
Okay, well, yeah, we have some other things to discuss. I'm sure they want to do a commercial break here, but coming up, we're going to have some lacrosse Final Four talk, and maybe a little MLB. What do you say, Gabby?
Yeah, sounds good to me, Rich.
All right.
What does it mean to be a leader?
It's taking my first solo flight.
At the University of North Dakota, we lead our own way.
Handicap Hustle. I'm Gabby DiPaula, along with my good friend Richard Frazier. We just talked about the NHL, NBA playoffs, a couple games going on tonight. We are going to move over to the MLB now with the Orioles, who just are now on a 3-game losing series. Just lost to the Cardinals, who seemed like they were out for blood. But I still have the Orioles being favored to go to the playoffs and win the World Series. Last year, they kind of got swept, if you remembered any of that, against the Rangers. I was actually there for a couple of games. It was pretty sad. But what is Vegas saying there, Rich? What are we favoring for the World Series, and specifically the Orioles?
Well, Gabby, I don't know if you're forgetting, but you're in a division with the New York Yankees. You remember that?
I could never forget. So, yeah. I am constantly reminded about the Yankees.
Yeah, and the Yankees are doing what they're supposed to do. They're leading the division, and in my opinion, are going to win that division. The O's are holding their own right now, and I have to tell you, based on MLB payroll, the O's they only have a payroll of $100 million, so you're getting a lot of bang for your buck with that team.
Yeah, they've never really had a large payroll. We've always been in the bottom tier, probably like lower five, lower seven or eight. They've definitely stretched a little bit the past couple years after a new regime came in and everything. But yeah, they're on a 3-game losing streak, like I just like referenced. Still have the Orioles winning it all. I know you just said the Yankees are probably going to win the division, which opposite happened last year. The Orioles won that division. Okay, I'm betting on the Orioles possibly winning the World Series. I'm not the biggest better. I'm not usually into the bigger numbers, but we'll throw this number out there and say 1,000. If I'm betting the Orioles win $1,000 to win this World Series, what happens? Where are we getting?
Well, $1,000 on the Baltimore Orioles would get you a $9,000 return right now.
Really? So so it's probably better odds right now. I have a ton of regret. I have a ton of friends that bet on the World Series for the Orioles to win it months ago, and I just lost it because I think it was the numbers were a little different at that time. But I have a lot of regret. What do you think? What should you tell our viewers? Should they take the numbers now?
Well, I mean, obviously, if the Orioles were in first place right now, their odds would be less, and you would get less money back. So, I mean, I see nothing wrong with a 9-to-1 return on your money with the O's right now. But yeah, plus 900 is a good return for the Orioles. But I mean, the talk of baseball is, of course, the Dodgers and their massive payroll and
Padres,
their
yep.
Shohei Ohtani. We just kind of shoved this whole gambling scandal under the rug for now. But he's the number one star in baseball now, and that's why everybody tunes in.
Okay, so all right, I'm still favoring the Orioles, but I see you're kind of moving towards the Dodgers or the Yankees. But moving on, let's get real quickly to the Ravens. We kind of talked about it earlier. You're a big Pittsburgh fan, a diehard Steelers fan, Pirates fan. Pirates are a little shaky right now, but they have Paul Skeens. But Steelers right now, I have the Ravens to win, or at least to be favored to at least win their division. What are your thoughts? It's early thoughts right now because we are in OTA. So thoughts on the Ravens possibly moving on.
Well, one thing I'm able to do, Gabby, and it's crucial to professional bettors, is to be able to separate your head from your heart. And
Mm-hmm.
nobody loves their Steelers more than I do, but I'm also a realist. And
I can tell.
um, yeah, I mean the offseason moves, trading Kenny Pickett, Rudolph walking in free agency, bringing in past their prime Russell Wilson didn't excite me at all. He's on a 1-year deal, and then the same thing with Justin Fields. Now, I am a little bit of excited about Justin Fields because he basically carried this Bear team on his back for the last few seasons, and he's young enough where I think that the threat of young legs and him being able to throw is it could be good for the Steelers. Although the Steelers declined to pick up his 5th-year option, so as it stands right now, he's only here for one season as well. I do not see the Steelers winning this division. Actually, as much as I hate to cave in, but I'm going to agree with you and say the Ravens win this division.
Yeah, I think the Ravens win the division right now. At least that's, it's early looks, we don't see any injuries right now, nothing that's important right now. So it's too early. It's May. We still have the entire summer and then September is when NFL season starts. So I see it too. The Ravens have been pretty consistent right now, but I know the Steelers, what you just said with Justin Fields, it's a prove it year pretty much for him, which I kind of like. It'll be fun to see where he kind of takes it this year if he gets a legit shot. But
Well, yeah, the other thing that how can the general manager come out and say that Russell Wilson's going to be the starter and Justin Fields is going to be the backup? They haven't even played a damn preseason game yet. How can you make that determination yet?
that was
Gee,
probably within the contract negotiations and everything, though. Russell Wilson does have a larger resume, even though they're looking at him from his past rather than his present. So that's my thoughts on that. But I think it could be up in the air, but yeah, Russell Wilson looks like QB1 right now.
yeah, so they say. We'll
All
see how
right.
long it lasts.
Yeah, Rich, do you have any other odds that we should be looking at before we go into the weekend?
Well, I was just going to tell you that if you're that confident in your Baltimore Ravens, they're the same odds as your Orioles are to win the whole thing. So, $100 wins you 900, just as $100 on the
To win the Super Bowl. To clarify,
yeah
Super Bowl?
yeah, that's correct.
Okay,
hundred
that's
dollars to
actually
win
not bad.
900 on the Super Bowl.
Okay, I
Um,
actually might take those odds when we get home.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Kansas City, coming in at 550 is favored to win the AFC again, but the overall favorite at this point for football is still the 49ers. So,
Oh, to win it all.
yeah,
Well, do you
well,
think
yeah,
those
and
odds will
these
change
odds,
before the
these odds,
season
of course,
starts, or?
but these are the odds as they stand right now. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, without going through preseason or we don't know who's going to be injured or what, these odds are subject to change. But San Francisco, and Kansas City are very close right now with Baltimore on their heels. So yeah, we're like I said, we're a little too far out to worry about that unless you're
Yeah,
just a diehard fan and itching to make a bet.
yeah, the Chiefs are looking for that dynasty run, right? So they're going to be pushing hard to do that. And we saw them with their offseason moves. So right now, I think if I were a betting man, I would take the Ravens. I would maybe go on a lesser or not put that ton of money down so you don't get, if they don't make it to the Super Bowl, you're not losing a ton of money. But $100 for 900 if they win is a huge return, and I probably would take that risk.
Yeah, I can see you taking that risk, and
Mhm.
they got a legitimate shot. I mean, Lamar's great. I think he was the best QB in the league last year, and believe me, it's hard for me to give compliments to Baltimore, but here I am.
I know. I know it's tough, but I appreciate it. You have to be biased, and here we are. But next week we have a ton coming up, NHL, NBA playoffs, and the Belmont Stakes that we'll be talking about. So,
Yeah, we have all that coming up, but we couldn't end today without talking about our executive producer's favorite sport, lacrosse.
mhm.
And it was brought to my attention that this weekend is the lacrosse Final Four. Do you know anything about this, Gabby?
I mean, I'm from Maryland. I know a lot about it. I know Maryland is lucky to be in it this year. They weren't supposed. I don't want to say they weren't supposed to be. They're usually ranked like a top 10, but I think they lost a couple games in the beginning of the season. They were able to recover, won the big game this week. And then they were able to go to the Final Four. They're going to play Virginia, which Virginia is kind of hot right now, and then Notre Dame and Denver are also playing this weekend. Notre Dame is #1 seed, so I'm gonna take Maryland because I'm biased. I went to Maryland. I always feel like they compete really well. Their coach has been there for several years, probably I think it's about 15 years he's going on.
Right.
So I know that they're a playoff team. They always are.
Well, yeah, and obviously being a 7 seed, they're the long shot of the tournament.
Mhm.
Plus $1,200, so $100 wins you 1,200 in the case of Maryland. And not a surprise that you and the executive producer would be on that side of things. But I mean, when you look at this, Notre Dame only lost one match all season long, minus 260. You got to lay 260 to win $100 on Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the hands down favorite to win this whole thing.
They have been, right. I watched them against Towson, where it was kind of a little bit back and forth with Albany. There was a little bit of back and forth. Towson was somewhere else, but Albany and Notre Dame were back and forth. I think Albany was ahead in the half, and Notre Dame ended up coming back. Maryland was also down in the first half against Duke, and they were able to come back in the fourth quarter. That was a crazy game. I was able to catch a couple minutes of that, but that's kind of why I'm leaning towards Maryland. Odds for Maryland to win were, you say like
for Maryland to win is plus 1,200.
plus 1,200.
So, yeah.
I might take that.
And the other thing to consider, Notre Dame is defending champs as well.
Absolutely, they're going for back-to-back championships. So
yes, they are.
You're taking Notre Dame. I'm gonna take Maryland plus 1,200. That seems like an easy deal for me.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a man of science. I let the numbers do the speaking for me. Again, separating the head and the heart. Now, I mean, I don't have any heart in the lacrosse at all. Notre Dame, Denver, Virginia, Maryland. I don't really care much about any of these schools. But hey, because you're my co-host, I'll pull for Maryland for you.
Yeah, I'm going to pull for Maryland. Also, apparently they are going to have record crowds in Philly this weekend. Usually those crowds, they play in some pretty big stadiums, so it'll be exciting. Lacrosse is definitely building and on the up and up. But I think, we have a lot to talk about next week. Like I said, Belmont Stakes, NHL, NBA playoffs. We'll see who wins the Final Four and then takes the championships for lacrosse too. A lot of sports going on, so I'm really excited to see what the results are for next week.
Yeah, this slowly leads into a sad time of year for me, because once you get Major League Baseball, or excuse me, basketball and hockey out of the way, and you're only left with baseball, then there's the big build up for football, which is my favorite time of year.
Mine too. Well, I think that's it for us, Rich. I'm Gabby DiPaula with Richard Frazier for Handicap Hustle, and a lot to talk about next week. NHL, NBA playoffs, Belmont Stakes. Join us next week. We'll see you next week.
See ya. Thank you, Gabby.
Watch 13 Wham News anywhere on any device with Stir. Download the Stir app and choose Rochester. You get local news and more than 20 other TV channels. And the best part? It's free. Go to your app store and download Stir today.